Good day, everyone. I'm Angela, the moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone for today's webinar, HR Auditing, Important Issue for 2025. I would now like to introduce our presenter for today, Ronald Adler. Ronald Adler is the President CEO of Lauren Associates. Mr. Adler has over 41 years of HR consulting experience working with U.S. and international firms. Mr. Adler has BS in finance from the University of Maryland and MBA from Southern Illinois University. I would now like to hand over the floor to the speaker. Over to you, Ronald.
Well, thank you, and welcome to our audience. So today we'll be looking at HR auditing, looking at issues as we enter we're almost into the second quarter of 2025. So as we look at the purposes of HR audits, we find that an important role then is managing human capital related assets and risks. So risk management is a critical aspect, a critical part. The development of risk profile from the employment labor law audit, which is the auditing tool. So as we go into the next slide, we find that the evolution of HR audits is changing. As I mentioned, there's now an increased interest in the strategic perspective. So we have strategic issues, we have tactical issues, we have compliance issues. We have a number of different issues now for the HR audit needs to be concerned about. So as we think about HR audits, then we see that HR audits are changing. So as we think then about HR audits, we find that there's a broader use of HR audits than we originally thought, than just compliance issues. So we have things like best places to work. So as we think then about your HR audit, we find that there's a number of organizational expectations, trends, and concerns that we're now addressing and we can look at. HR is also increasingly expected to provide quantitative as well as qualitative information about the organization's human capital. Do we need to make a change? And of course now with AI. So external forces then include the increasing governmental audit activity. So something I just mentioned. So those are the external forces. Some of the internal forces we're looking at from an auditing standpoint. We see there's an increased attention to organizational culture. So continuing within the internal auditing, internal force activity, we often find that there's an emphasis on monetizing HR-related activity and results. So as we look at then some key performance indicators, some KPIs, this is just a list of some of the things that we've developed over time. So I'll quickly go through this, but we also have things like job security, the relationship with the manager and supervisor, often something we need to look at from an auditing standpoint. Then we have the employment brand. We have something called new hire quality, just as a note. So the HR employment practice liability risk is the possibility, more likely the probability. So according to the survey of the international risk managers, the human capital risk is a significant risk facing organizations worldwide. So we looked then at EPLA-related losses. What are some of these losses that we have to pay attention to that need to be perhaps discussed in the audit? But these are just federal laws. So what you're going to find is that this is just a starting point. And of course, the first thing they look at is the I-9. Again, the I-9 is something that's required, whether it's been correctly completed. Then what happens to them? Then we have things like we have the number of benefit laws we have to pay attention to. So we have the Family Medical Leave Act. So as we talk about HRs, we find that they're evolving from a simple checklist of do's and don'ts and periodic action plans. So HR audits then are an independent, objective, systematic, continuous evaluation of an organization's HR management and employment practice. The organization's human capital adds value and makes the organization more competitive. So as we talk about then the critical components of an audit, four things that we've identified are activities, behaviors, risk and opportunities, and then business or audit outcomes. And there are key performance indicators and key risk indicators. The third component is risk and opportunities, which are processes, tests, and assessments that help ensure that compliance, manage risk. So, some frequently audited areas then with HR strategies and objectives. We talked about human capital, talent management issues, culture, value, and mission of the organization, so we need to look at that. Then we have things like conducting audit, facilities inspection. You're looking at the facilities where people work. Of course, now we often have people working from home. So what are the things that have to be done? Employment policies, practice, procedures, and processes. That really refers to your employee handbook. When was the last time you updated your employee handbook? For developing the HR audit plan, first of all, we need to determine the purpose and objective of the audit. Why are you conducting the HR audit? 5, determine the audit tool being used. Determine audit team governance. And 11, determine employment issue accountability. Okay, so that's the end of this part of the presentation.
Thank you, Ronald. That concludes all the session for today. Thank you, everyone, for participating. You may all disconnect now. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you, everyone.